What's up, everybody? This week, with the launch of Pokemon Sword and Shield, there is a lot of controversy going on, which should be no surprise to you, between hashtag THANKYOUGAMEFREAK, hashtag BringBackTheNationalDex, and a whole bunch of other oddities with the launch of the game. And so we're going to be talking about that today, coming right up. So one of the first things I want to point out here is from username Oxycontin Overdose over on the Pokemon subreddit, and they point out, quote, a few fun facts about the Galar Dex, and I'll go ahead and let you read the whole thing. You can head over to Reddit and find their post there. But I thought it was kind of funny because they point out specifically that one of the main reasons I think Pokemon were maybe justified to be cut from Pokemon Sword and Shield is to better represent the Galar region, which represents the UK. You have some Pokemon that are cut here, or some Pokemon that are included in Pokemon Sword and Shield that make absolutely no sense in regards to that region, whereas I think a lot of people, at least myself, were really impressed with how well the Pokemon Company was able to represent Hawaii in the kind of Hawaii region with the Alola region with Pokemon Sun and Moon, even introducing variants such as Executor, where you were able to have kind of the tall neck. What was it? Raichu had a surfboard or something, which really fit in line and made it feel like you're kind of immersed in that world. Some things that are happening here with the Galar region and the Galar Dex don't make complete sense. And one of the first examples they have here is that Team Yell is the primary antagonist of the game, similar to like what you know as like Team Rocket, but the Exploud, am I saying that right? Exploud line is not in the game. And I think another weird thing with that is that Loud Red, which I hope I'm saying these Pokemon names right, please don't tear me apart in the comments, but he was just featured, or they were just featured in Detective Pikachu, and I thought they were hilarious in Detective Pikachu, going boom, 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 doing their little beatboxing. And they're not featured in the game, even though it would make total sense for Team Yell to be throwing out these Pokemon. And some other examples included here are that Lillipup and Snubbull, who are a Yorkshire Terrier and a Bulldog, were both cut from the game, even though that they're English dog breeds. And he has a few other examples here with swans and lions and dragons and penguins and things like that. But I thought it was also funny that skunks are not found in the European region at all, and yet Skuntank can be found in Galar. And pandas are also not found in the UK, and yet Pangoro can be found. And so if their excuse for cutting and including certain Pokemon in Pokemon Sword and Shield was that they wanted to be faithful to the Galar region or the UK region, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit in line with the kind of in-game lore that they've built up. So beyond that, username Soccerman95 also points out that it's not just the Pokemon being cut, and it's not just the weird justification for these Pokemon being cut, but that Dexit overall was the quote tipping point that unleashed floodgates of years of frustration. And so they have a few points here that go beyond the Pokemon being cut that explain why people may be frustrated with people showing gratitude to Game Freak or just the hype for the game overall. Now I went ahead and clicked these spoilers that they have here on the post, and basically it all sums up to say that there's not a lot of stuff, according to leaks, to imply that there's tons of post-game content, but we don't know that for sure, and I'm not going to get into the details here. They also point out that we've been warned about this for months, but I think we were all kind of anticipating maybe a few Pokemon being cut, maybe one or two families, one or two lines. You know, if 100 Pokemon are cut overall, maybe 200 or 300, you know, it starts to hurt. But to have less than the 800 that we were expecting, they go ahead and say is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's also funny that they point out that Game Freak supposedly future-proofed 722 Pokemon models by porting over Pokemon to the 3D models in Pokemon X and Y. And so they have those models, and we see 3D models in Pokemon Go. You know, we have Pokemon in Let's Go. I mean, we have so many Kanto Pokemon in Pokemon Let's Go, including the Alolan forms and Mega Evolutions. Like, how are those not going over? So if the excuse was in-game lore, if the excuse was we don't have the 3D models, if the excuse was we don't have the animations, then that just doesn't make sense, because we see them on the Switch. We see them in the Game Freak Pokemon Company games. They go on to point out that maybe the justification was for animation, but animations don't look better or are completely recycled. Maybe it was to overhaul the gym challenge system, but so far gyms seem to be remarkably similar to what we've had before, even kind of going back to what we had before Pokemon Sun and Moon, although it seems like Dynamaxing and G-Maxing is kind of a heavy focus, perhaps a little bit of a soccer theme. But beyond that, we don't even have returning features from games that we used to love, like the secret bases from Generation 3 or a difficulty selection, a sort of emphasis on rebattling trainers and all of that. And as far as we've heard from the advertising and marketing, it doesn't seem to have a return of master trainers that my brother and I personally really got excited for in Pokemon Let's Go. And so all of these things, you know, Battle Frontier, cool Mega Evolutions, things like that, are all completely absent, even with the hundreds of Pokemon cut, and even with the lore and the animations and all that not making complete sense with the game. Username the throwaway 343434 6 days ago made a similar post saying that it's not about the small Pokedex, it's all of these other issues and the animations and the post game and the lifeless visuals and the 3DS port sort of style stuff that's going on that is getting people so upset. You know, I think people would be remarkably happy with Pokemon Sword and Shield if you did cut 400, 300, you know, even only have Galarian Pokemon. I think people would be totally fine with only having 150 Pokemon. I think people would have a blast with Pokemon Sword and Shield if they cut hundreds of Pokemon, but the game took a massive step forward. A Breath of the Wild, a Mario Odyssey, you know, this modern RPG. You know, I mean, we live in a world where there's games like The Witcher 3 out there, and I know that's a little bit of apples and oranges, but we live in a world where there is a game like The Witcher 3 or Cyberpunk 2077 coming out that completely set the bar and standard for how role-playing games can work. And I get that they're not like turn-based strategy like Pokemon is, and it is definitely a different vein. What I say that, though, is that we live in a world where there can be such a high standard for game development. And so when you not only make cuts, but then you don't improve on that with those extra resources, that's where people get a little upset. Username JD Briggs Blader also made a similar point that it's not about the Dexit really at all, getting a few awards here and 4.2 thousand upvotes, 4.2 thousand and one. That it's not about the size of the Pokedex, it's about the fact that the games look very bad, that the contemporaries, like I was mentioned with other role-playing games, Monster Hunter, Fire Emblem, Zelda, Mario, all of that make it look really bad. It reminds me almost of when you have a game like Fallout 4 or Fallout 76 that come out that look kind of fun in their own little bubble. Not Fallout 76, but Fallout 4 was fun in its own right, but then you play a game like, you know, even the Outer Worlds that just came out that just make it pale in comparison as far as writing and depth and consequence to your decisions. That's what you have right here, where Pokemon Sword and Shield in its own individual bubble is quite a fantastic game. But then you start to realize what could have been, and that's where the frustration comes. Also pointing out that a lot of people are upset with the price, that it's $60 compared to Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, it's $40, which we talked about in our last video. Technical performance, things like that. And then the cherry on top, the real just kick in the freaking shrekkers, right as you're upset, is that Pokemon Sword and Shield director Omori, am I saying that right? Hopefully, maintains that the National Dex won't be coming back. So we had some hope in my last video that the greed in them, the marketing desires in them, whatever it may be, and the Pokemon company may lead them to go ahead and add the Pokemon back in the form of DLC or Ultra Sword, Ultra Shield, whatever. But I'm going to go ahead and actually read this whole little excerpt here from the new Dutch interview that was actually talking about experience share. And they say, quote, "The missing Dex is of course also discussed, which we mainly want to know whether it will be returned in the future. Will there be an update or a third game?" And according to Masuda, Game Freak wants to continue the approach for Sword and Shield. Quote, "We now have no plans to make the Pokemon that are missing in the Galar Pokedex in-game available. That is an approach that we want to continue with Pokemon games in the future. Of course, up to now, it has not been possible to encounter every Pokemon in every game, so people had to transfer it from old games via the Pokemon Bank to the new game, for example." End quote. On the other hand, so on one hand, that's understandable. What he's saying basically is that, and I kind of talked about it in my last video, hey guys, this ain't new. We've had this situation before where you can't catch every Pokemon in the game. You have to wait till a source afterwards to even acquire them. So why are you all up in arms now? And I think the controversy or the counter to that is that even though you weren't able to catch them in the game, you were eventually able to get them to battle in the end game, post game content through a resource like the Pokemon Bank. But their response to that is, quote, "Currently the Pokemon home map is under development, where players can collect their different Pokemon, and only Pokemon in the Galar Pokedex can be transferred from there to Sword and Shield. But the way of playing is actually not very different from before with Pokemon Bank. Until now, you have always been able to meet the only Pokemon of a certain region. We encourage people to use Pokemon Home to collect their Pokemon from old games, and from there they might be able to make it to other games in the future. So take good care of your old Pokemon, because because you might be able to go out with them again in the future. And I just thought one of the comments here was funny that they said, we'll upvote this, put your Pokemon into a prison until we decide to release a game in which they are available. And then in addition to that, pay us to put your Pokemon into a prison until we decide to release a game in which they are attainable, because you have to subscribe to this Pokemon Home service. Hashtag Pokemon Prison. Yeah, it's literally just a storage system, which once again, I don't think people would be that upset if we had the Pokemon Home as an alternative and you had Sword and Shield as your Galarian adventure, but Pokemon Home was a Pokemon Stadium-esque service. Now imagine, if you will, if we had Pokemon Stadium, where you could collect all of your Pokemon, your Galar Pokemon, your Sword and Shield Pokemon, your Sun and Moon Pokemon, X and Y, Kanto, you know, Johto, everything. You got it all in Pokemon Stadium, and that was your Pokemon Home service. You can collect all your Pokemon, and then you can battle online with them. I think people will be happier there, but the fact that Pokemon Home is literally nothing but a prison, as these comments are saying, Phantom Imp, Mornus, Eagerson, you know, I think people are a little bit more upset because you just can't do anything with them in there. You know, we don't even know if, can you like play with them? Can you interact with them? Can you train them? Can you level them up? Can you give them any sort of attention? Or are they literally just like a PC box where you just put them in? All that to say, we have another Kazrisk Rants in the books. All that to say, it seems like there's a lot of reason to be upset with the current state of Pokemon and the launch of Pokemon Sword and Shield. There's not a lot of hope for the national dex. There's not a lot of hope for improved animations. And I'm interested to see how the sales go, because if the sales stay strong, there's not a lot of hope that Pokemon as an RPG will be able to make massive strides forward, because why would you if you're getting paid tons of money to just continue to kind of just push out the game you currently have? I'm still of the hope, though, that decreased sales, increased controversy, the constant pressure and heat on the studio to improve their product, I think will eventually lead to a better product. I did want to make one interesting point. I was talking to my brother the other day, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I believe Pokemon Sun and Moon, which is our latest mainline Pokemon, and Sun and Moon development started in 2014, and Iwata passed away in 2015. Now, the interesting thing with that is I believe it was under Iwata's leadership in the early 90s that he actually, or the late 90s, where he was saying early 2000s, that he was demanding that the Kanto Pokemon in the Kanto region be accessible from Pokemon Gold and Silver. And I'm curious if he was kind of always one of the main advocates for having old Pokemon be accessible in the ongoing adventures, because it's kind of a weird coincidence that he advocated for that and then passed away, and now the national dex is no more. Maybe they don't have that pressure from Nintendo anymore to include all of the Pokemon, and without that pressure, they're like, thank goodness we can finally move ahead with a lesser roster of a game. Maybe that's completely wrong. Maybe the way the development cycle lines up doesn't completely work with that theory. But I thought it was an interesting thing to share nonetheless. If you have things against it, you know, you can go ahead and leave the comments. But if you think that's an interesting theory, also let me know down in the comment section below. I am excited for the game, and I know that's bad. I know people aren't, you know, exceptionally thrilled with those that are going to be picking up the game, because I know a lot of people are advocating for boycotts. I know a lot of people are advocating that fans demand a higher standard from the Pokemon Company. But the truth of the matter is, I'm not going to deny myself a really fun Pokemon experience just because of a few things that I really dislike. I think there's so much still good with the game. I mean, I do love the new Galarian design, you know, even if they don't make sense. So I don't know. But let me know down in the comment section below what you think of all of this controversy, all of these details, all of the hoopla surrounding the launch of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Are you picking it up? Are you going Sword? Are you going Shield? Who's your starter going to be? Just let me know about it down in the comment section below. I'll talk to you guys down there. Leave a like and subscribe while you're down there. We just celebrated 225 subscribers, I think. So we've gone up like 25 or so since the last time I talked to you guys in one of these videos. You've been insane with the support, insane with all of the likes. We hit 100 likes on our Overwatch video, which is just absolutely insane. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you down there, but until next time, bye! Yeah.